social media addiction is not your real problem. It's merely a symptom of a bigger problem. So in today's video, I'm gonna explain what I believe that bigger problem is, and then I'm gonna share the solution, the cure, if you will. 3 years ago, I made a video titled, I deleted all of my social media accounts. And I did, and it was great. It was good for a time. But as the months started to accumulate being off social media, I realized something. I realized that it was just a temporary fix deleting my social media accounts, that there was still some underlying issue going on that I needed to address. I realized that me being addicted to social media was just a symptom, a side effect of a deeper issue. So what do I mean when I say symptom? Well, let's use the analogy of having a headache. You've probably had a headache before. And when someone has a headache, the common assumption is that you'll take some aspirin and the headache will go away. But what would happen if you took the aspirin, but day after day after day, the headache keeps showing up? Well, eventually you're gonna have to reach a point where you wake up and you're like, whoa, okay, well, clearly something else is going on here. There might be a bigger problem that I have to deal with.
It's not a tumor.
That's sort of what this whole dynamic is like. Being on social media constantly for hours on end is just like taking aspirin. It's a temporary fix to what might be a bigger issue. So what do I believe the bigger problem is? Well, I realized this, mind you, when I was off social media for years at this point. And the bigger problem is not living life with intention. That's the real problem. That's the real issue. Because we're not living our life with intention, our level of distractibility is going to be very high. But here's the issue. Two things. Number one is that we're in a constant battle, a never-ending battle that happens all day, every day, between intention and distraction. In nearly every decision that we make and every action that we take, we're deciding between living with intention and choosing distraction. And here's the second issue. It's always easier to choose distraction. It takes no effort, whereas living with intention takes some thought, takes some sweat, takes some muscle. And so ultimately, we have to reorient ourselves and start living with greater intention, not just getting off social media. I don't think that's a bad thing to deactivate or delete your accounts. Sure, go ahead, by all means. But it's just, again, a temporary fix. If we're a distracted person, then we're always gonna find something to be distracted by. You might have experienced this before where you say you're gonna spend less time on one app only to spend more time on another app. Or, hey, I wanna spend less time on my phone, and then you end up watching more TV. The face of our distraction might change, but we're still distracted. And it's gonna be a painful reality for us when we eventually are handed the bill for not living with intention, for not exercising, for not eating well, for not spending quality time with our family, for not maximizing our potential. It's gonna be a painful wake-up call. So if we can take care of this deeper issue, then no longer being addicted to social media is gonna be just icing on the cake. It's gonna be a natural side effect of how we've decided to change our life. Now, in a little bit here, I'm gonna share 4 questions with you that you can ask yourself and answer to start living with greater intention. But first, I actually wanna talk about the key character trait, the singular character trait that we wanna harness within ourselves that's gonna put us in a position to avoid distractions so that they're a thing of the past. So that, yes, distractions might come our way, but they're never gonna hold us back. And that trait is determination. We could probably think of at least one person in our lives, maybe it's a friend or a family member, who is a determined person. Or maybe we think of a Michael Jordan with his tenacity, his will to win. Or maybe you think of Ronaldo and his work ethic. But whoever comes to mind, the common thread amongst these people is that they have set their mind on something and they've decided that they're not gonna let anything get in their way. And that's what determination is. It's the act of deciding definitively and firmly. And I truly believe that you can adopt a similar mindset, that you can develop this trait within yourself. So that's why I say that social media addiction is not your real problem. Because if you're truly determined to maximize your potential in life, to discover and fulfill your purpose, and to live a truly meaningful life, well then there's nothing that's gonna get in your way. Not social media, not any distraction. The scripture that comes to mind here is in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 15 and 16, which reads, "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil." The days are evil. They're difficult in nature. They can be toilsome, and they're filled with distractions and temptations that pull us away from the things that are most important in life. And so we have to redeem our time. We have to be intentional. We have to maximize our time. So that leads me to the central point of this video, which is to live with intention. How do we do that? Well, what we're trying to do is address this distractible characteristic within us. And in order for us to address it, I believe that we have to clearly outline what our priorities are in life. Because otherwise, and I believe this is the trap that most people fall into, They will be decided for us. These things aren't taught in school. I've never gotten a homework assignment that helped me live with greater intention. You've probably never had a job who asked you what your values are or what your personal goals are. And so it's probably not your fault if you haven't, to this point, answered the kind of questions that I'm about to share with you. But it is your responsibility, because ultimately you are going to pay the price for not doing it. You're going to be the one who suffers. So here are the 4 questions that you can answer to start living with greater intention. Question number 1, what has your identity been rooted in, and what do you want your identity to be rooted in? So maybe up to this point you've been known as a sports fan, or a gamer, or a workaholic, or maybe you've been seen as a procrastinator. In any case, we want to get a clear and honest sense of what our identity has been rooted in the past, and then what do we want it to be rooted in going forward. And my recommendation here is to focus on things that are lasting. As James Allen highlighted in his book, As a Man Thinketh, we're shifting from what's temporary to what's permanent. So temporary things would be like your job or your current level of fitness, or maybe you say, hey, I'm a vegan, that's my identity. And so many of those things will come and go. They'll change as you go through life. But we want to shift to things that are more permanent, things like your faith or your beliefs. I am made in the image of God. I am who God says I am. Question number 2 is, what have you valued in the past, and what do you want to value? Despite what we might think, we can get a really clear sense of what we value by how we spend our time and the decisions we make. So maybe in the past you've overvalued pleasure and comfort and instant gratification, and going forward you want to be able to delay gratification. You want to be more prudent. You want to spend more quality time with your family. You want to live a healthy lifestyle. You want to travel. So decide on these things and make them very clear, because I think it's so easy for us to just settle for what's good enough. There are things that you really want to do, but you just settle for laying on the couch and scrolling on your phone for a couple hours, or we just settle for just watching TV, another night of watching TV, when there are other things that we really would love to do instead. So when we know what we value, it's very clear to us. We now have a blueprint for how we can spend our time. Question number 3 is, what character traits have you embodied in the past, and which do you want to embody going forward? So maybe to this point you've been untrustworthy, or you're always late, you're very forgetful. Maybe you're a people pleaser to your own detriment. But going forward, you want to be more punctual. You want to be more organized, disciplined, careful, calculated. Decide what these traits are. And then last question, question number 4, what were my goals last month, and what are my goals for this month? And now with this final question, we're getting a very clear sense of direction. If you didn't have any goals last month, or they're very vague or unclear, well, that should tell you all that you need to know. Because as Zig Ziglar once said, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. So going forward, set some goals that you can accomplish in the next 4 weeks, in the next month, and then chop them down, break them down into weekly goals that stack up and add up to that monthly target or objective. And so once you've jotted down all your answers to these questions, the key thing to let sink in going forward is to acknowledge every instance in which you live with intention. Each instance in which you reinforce your identity, where you demonstrated by how you spent your time what you value, or when you exhibit a desired character trait. Oh, I wasn't just on time, I was early. Well, this is great. I'm being a lot more organized with my schedule, or I'm being more thoughtful with how I'm starting my day. These are good things. I said I was going to commit to working out every day. Like, I'm really doing this. I'm a few weeks, I'm a few months in. This is going well. And so in summary, we want to let this level of thoughtfulness and intention become who we are. And if you do so, I can assure you that wasting countless hours on social media will be a thing of the past. And because you've now addressed the real problem, not just a temporary fix, there's nothing that will be able to hold you back. So don't be a distracted person. Become a determined person and live with intention. I hope you enjoyed this video and got a lot of value from it. If you did, please hit the like button so we can spread this message to other people, and hit the subscribe button for more videos on how to improve your health and quality of life. I'll see you in the next video, but until then, stay blessed by the best. Take care.